Transcripts and recordings of the podcast may not be used for any purpose without the direct written permission of the podcast owner. Welcome to LITE It Up, a podcast about resilient women balancing motherhood, their careers, personal lives, and all of the challenges that come along with being a superwoman. Each week, you'll be motivated to take action to lead, inspire, transform, and empower. Now, here's your host, Dr. Aginah Musherah. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of LITE It Up. I am your host, Dr. Aginah Musherah. I'm so excited about this week's episode of LITE It Up because I have a special guest. You all know that I say that all of my guests are special, but this particular guest is special because she has been through a life-changing transition and is using her experience and her background to help others. There are certain topics that I don't necessarily dive into on LITE It Up, and it's not that they aren't important, but sometimes those topics can be a little bit triggering. And I will tell you that while today's episode, the topic may start off as potentially triggering for some or sensitive in nature, I want you all to know that there is definitely a light on the other side. And our goal today is to help people who have experienced pain in their life to find assistance so that they can become healed. Today's guest is Latarsha Haughton, who is from, she's an author, first, let me say that, of Breaking the Silence. And she also is a transformational life coach. So Latarsha, welcome to LITE It Up. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. I feel honored to be here with you today.
Great. So I want to give you an opportunity to tell my viewing audience a little bit about yourself. I alluded to the fact that you experienced some transition or difficult times, during your life, but have been able to make a transition and get through pain that you experienced at a young age. But I want to give you an opportunity to kind of share with our audience before we kind of dive into that. Who are you? I know that you're a wife, I know you're a mother, but why don't you, tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Okay, well, I am a believer in Jesus Christ, first and foremost. God put it in my heart to tell my story. And I began to tell my story. And as I was sharing my story with others publicly, I was helping them, but all along I was healing myself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm always sharing with people to tell your story, because it not only help and unlock the prison of someone else's mindset and journey that they're on, but it also helps you to heal by being open. Openness breeds openness.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a 12-step program because in the midst of my storm, my trauma that I've experienced, I did not know how to love myself. I did not know how to set boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
My boundaries was invaded at a very young age. So I had this 12-step program that I go around and teaching men and women how to love themselves. The Bible, I use biblical principle, and God always says to love others as yourself, but people always leave out the as yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
so we always try to love other people because it's easier to love and want to heal and help everybody else. It takes a lot more energy to work on yourself. And so this is what I teach of how to love yourself and how you will change the world around you once you start loving yourself. And then you can love other people in a healthy way.
Mhm.
Because if you don't love yourself, it's no way humanly possible that we can love others in a healthy way.
Mhm.
So, that I'm big on learning to love yourself, learning how to surround yourself with safe people, being able to set boundaries. And, I just have a heart for people because I know what that pain felt like. I know what it's like growing up and going through life, not being able to love yourself. So I have embraced being able to love myself and knowing who I am, my identity in Christ. And I feel so good. Like I feel joy. And so one of my biggest prayers is that God will fill me so much that everybody I come in contact with will be able to feel his presence and feel his joy. And they will be able to walk away with imprints that he was able to use me through. And I mean, I'm telling you, it's just been the best years of my life since I have released I have released and reclaimed my power that was taken away from me
Mhm.
at a young age.
Yes, and speaking of that, and I'm sure you don't mind me sharing with the audience, your pain in terms of breaking the silence. You were silent for nearly 30 years about experiencing sexual abuse.
Yes.
And I know from that trauma, actually, you brought forth life. So your son,
Yeah.
who's now what, around 30, 32 years old.
Yes. Yes.
And we don't have to, it's totally up to you. We don't have to go any further in terms of sharing who you were abused by, but we do know that um, sexual abuse is something that is prevalent, and unfortunately, um, so many, both boys and girls, can experience sexual abuse and that trauma that goes along with that when they remain silent or when they don't have an outlet to share what has happened to them. My question to you is, after your experience of giving birth to your son
Yes.
at a young age, um, what was it, or how long did it take you to um, finally feel comfortable with sharing what transpired? Was there something that happened where you just said that you had to release this secret that you had been carrying with you for so many years?
It's funny you would say that. Um, I was going through a divorce. I started going to therapy
Mhm.
because I could not understand why or how I could stay in a marriage where my husband had went outside the marriage and had three different children by three different women.
Mhm.
I said three different children, I'm sorry. Three children by three different women.
Right, right.
So, and I couldn't understand, like, why was it so hard for me to really leave this relationship?
Mhm.
And I started going to therapy, and I realized that it was because I was so used to abuse that it had became the norm for me.
Mm.
So, in the midst of this divorce, I think that that was a time in my life where I just drew closer to God more than I ever have because I had been in that marriage for 12 years at that time. And it was very painful for me because I was so used to, we got soul ties, we, you have everything together and we've done everything together. And it was just a season of my life where I just needed to lean into God.
Mhm.
And so I was sitting at the window and I was reading my Bible and I was praying, and something just dropped in my spirit and said, "You need to tell your story." And I started looking around and I said, "I'm not telling my story. I'm not telling anybody that." I was like, "How could I do that?" You
Mhm.
know, and it just it just sat in my heart that whole entire day. And I called one of my best friends up and I started telling her that God is telling me I need to tell my story. And she said, well, what would that look like for you? And I said, I'm not doing it, And the more that I kept thinking about it. And I was like, okay, God, for whatever reason you want this story to be told, I'm going to do it in fear. I'm just going to do it afraid.
Mm-hmm.
And I told my girlfriend, and we were planning a conference. I was going to plan to tell my story at a conference. I said, well, maybe if we do a conference and have other speakers, and I got other speakers, other women that experienced the same type of sexual trauma by their biological fathers as me. And so this was one of the things that um, that was just put on my heart. So we was planning a conference, and we did a radio show.
Mm-hmm.
And so the radio show, a friend of hers said, I have a radio show. Why don't you come on so we can start promoting the conference and stuff and building up? So on a radio show, we were all talking, and all of a sudden, the last 10 minutes of the show,
Mm-hmm.
I said, I was sexually abused by my biological father. And it got real quiet. And somebody said, did I just hear you say that you were sexually abused by your biological father? It just came out of my mouth out of nowhere. And in that moment, I felt relieved. And that was the first time I ever said that publicly
Mm-hmm.
at that radio show. And from that day forward, I just did it afraid.
Wow. Did clearly it was placed on your spirit and your heart to release that.
Yes.
Um, did so before sharing that publicly, did your best friend know that you were abused by your biological father, or did family members, or was that a secret that you also just held on to as well?
That was a secret that I just held on to because I lived with guilt and I lived with shame for so many years.
Mm-hmm.
And I had carried the burden of feeling like that was my fault.
Yes.
It was my fault. I could have done something different. I could have done something about it. And so, with me living with that, I was not able to share that for a very, very long time. A very long time.
And how old were you when you became pregnant with your son?
I was in my last year of high school. I was in the 12th grade.
Wow. So, and I assume doing the math, we're probably around the same age. I'm going to say mid 40s.
No.
Oh, okay. All right. I won't press you to tell your age. Well, whatever the age is.
I'm 51. I'll be 52 this year. Yes.
Okay. Well, you don't look it.
Thank you. Yeah.
But that is a long time to carry that
Yes.
and to feel like you were responsible for something that, honestly, I mean, when you think of your father,
Right.
or a father is supposed to be a protector, right? And he's also the first man that a girl loves as well. And so just thinking about how that would obviously have some impact, not only on your self-esteem, your mental and emotional well-being, but then how you um, enter into relationships and what you accept in relationships from individuals. And though, um, I will share, I too have gone through a divorce after 11 years of marriage. And um, it's when I think about the steps that I went through in terms of going to counseling. So I'm glad to hear that that was one of the things that came out of your divorce, that you felt, the need to seek counseling to kind of understand what was going on, but it also gave you that courage
Right.
to share what transpired and to release that, because that is an enormous burden to
Yeah.
carry for all of those years. And it makes me think about you know just the suffering that so many of our young people go through who remain silent, and um, what their actions are going forward, where some people may who don't know what has transpired may look at some young person's actions and not really question or get to the root of what's
Right.
causing them to be this way, or not asking the appropriate questions, or the fact that this young person um, felt like they had to carry that burden on their own, or felt like they were responsible for an adult's action. And that is something that no young person or anyone should have to experience or carry with them. But what has come out of your pain is your ability to help other people, because by having the courage to share your story, that means that other people will eventually come forward and, be willing to reclaim their life by releasing that pain.
Right.
Um, so when you decided to write your book, Breaking the Silence, um, w- was that difficult for you to put pen to paper um, about your experience? Or do you feel
Yes,
like, okay.
it was, but I had a awesome writing coach,
Hmm.
and he would bring so much out of me. And as I was writing, he would ask me questions that triggered me, that I didn't realize was still there after going to therapy for 8 years.
Hmm.
And it was pretty intense, because I was like, oh my goodness, I remember that. Oh my goodness, and so it's so important for people to go back to that 8-year-old child. If I did not go to therapy, I would have never realized that my childhood was affecting all the relationships in my life, all of them. I was failing tremendously.
Hmm.
And going to therapy for 8 years, intensive therapy. I mean, when I tell you, I drove from Baltimore to Pennsylvania.
Hmm.
It took me an hour and a half to get from where I lived in Pennsylvania, but I worked in Baltimore.
Okay.
And I drove from Baltimore to Pennsylvania to get home, which took an hour, but
Hmm.
it took an additional 30 minutes to get there. So, and then traffic is bad. Sometimes it was an hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours for me to
Hmm.
get to therapy. But that is how determined I was to understand me. I wanted to meet me.
Right.
I did not know who I was. I had no identity. I was just existing in life and not living. But we have to go back to that 8-year-old child
Hmm.
and heal her or him.
Hmm.
Because if we don't, we're taking that baggage into every relationship, and we get stagnated, and we can't understand why we can't move forward.
Hmm. Yeah. What and I don't know how to begin to even ask the next question, because I have so many thoughts that are going through my mind. Um, because I'm thinking about, you know, I don't, if you could go back to your 8-year-old self,
Mhm,
okay, and uh, when the first incident occurred,
mhm,
do you, was there anyone around in your home or within your family that you think could have protected you had they noticed or paid attention to, just maybe behavior, or you know what I mean, or interaction or something. Because I guess what I'm trying to get at, sometimes we think, um, you can't let your children spend a night at a relative's house because you don't know if something may happen. But this happened in your own home
Mhm.
by your father. Um, but was there anyone that you think, who could have protected you or saved you from the continuous trauma that you experienced?
I think that I yes, I would have to say yes. Um, but that was if I had said something.
Mhm,
But my behaviors, I think that they did not pay attention to my behaviors.
mhm, mhm.
They did not pay attention. I became very promiscuous.
Okay.
I was angry. I was frustrated. I felt it just felt so disgusting to me.
Mhm,
And I always felt dirty. No longer, no matter how long I showered, I still could not feel that cleanness that I wanted to feel.
mhm,
And it it not only messed with my mindset, of wow, like you're never gonna get clean enough. You're never gonna feel um worthy. I would have to use the word worthy.
mhm.
And I was robbed of that.
Yes.
And it was very painful for me.
Mhm,
And so I began to try to do things to numb that pain.
mhm. Now, how did you get to the place of forgiveness? Because, I mean, clearly that is definitely God working on you. But how did you finally get to that place of forgiveness? And once you got to the place of forgiveness, was that at the point where you decided to share or write your book, or did that come afterwards?
It came afterwards.
Okay.
Um, my father had started getting sick. He had some dementia and along with some other things. And I remember my sister calling me and she's saying, Dad needs are you going to go to the nursing home to go visit Dad? And I said, yes, I'm going to go. I went and I talked to my dad and I said, hey, I shaved him, I was shaving him, and her and I began to shave him together. And I just started having compassion. Um, the way that I was able to learn, because people always want to know, how did you do it? I don't want to know that you forgave your dad, but how did you do it?
Mhm,
So I looked at his life and I just began to look at his childhood
mhm,
and look at his relationship with his dad, which he really didn't have one.
mhm.
And then his relationship with his mother. I looked at he was raised in a house with 14 children. My grandmother had 14 children.
Okay.
And I looked at like, how can you actually really show love and affection to 14 children? Like somewhere along the line, somebody's going to get neglected somewhere,
Yeah.
everybody's needs are not going to get met.
Mhm,
Um, she did raise them all to be close.
mhm,
She raised them all to stick up for one another and just stick together like glue. That's one thing she taught them. I have to say, for a person to have that type of warped mindset, that had to be done to him.
yeah.
To think that this is okay to do, this is normal, because that's what he tried to convince me, that this is normal, this is okay, this is how a father loves his daughter. So, and I just wanted my dad to love me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that every little girl just longs for that daddy's love because that's how God designed us,
Right. Yes.
for that prince. And so you just want that love from your dad. And then from your love from your dad, then you want that from a man, to treat you and adore you the way that your daddy did.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I just started looking deeper into his childhood, how he was raised, what he was birthed into, the type of family, and the things that he had to experience as a child growing up, and not being able to get healed, because usually abusers will abuse other people
Right.
in some form of way. It doesn't have to be sexual abuse, but it can be abuse mentally, physically, emotionally, and it could be sexually. So it just depends. But and we as people tend to put band-aids on those wounds, and then we just bleed on everybody around us.
Mm-hmm.
So if we don't heal internally, it just leaks out all over the place. So to answer your question, I began to look at his life like that and looked at how he was bleeding all on everybody else around him, how he was abusing other people around him. And I was like, wow, he never had any real freedom. Never. He just existed, and living with that guilt and that shame that he had to live with, like I did. I know he was only being tormented in his mind at all times. And that's probably the reason why he used drugs, was because he was numbing the pain, because he could not heal on his own.
Mm-hmm.
So as time went on, I just said, I need to reclaim my power. I need to forgive him so that I can start living. The more that I hated him and resented him was causing me to just exist. But when I began to forgive him, I started reclaiming my power by doing things like, I wouldn't wear pajamas for a very long time. I hated pajamas.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, literally, I hated them. So I would sleep in my clothes, even as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
I would just always sleep in my clothes. I would find myself laying on the sofa with my jeans and t-shirt on, and just not wanting to put pajamas on, to the point where I'm so obsessed with pajamas now. They call me a pajama junkie because I just love pajamas.
Mm-hmm.
But that was one of the ways that I reclaimed my power, because I said, no, I can wear pajamas. I am safe,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to protect me. And it's okay. I'm going to wear my pajamas.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started, just things that he had done to me. I started saying, no, you don't have that power over my life anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started little by little just taking my power back. And that is how I was able to forgive him and release him and pray blessings over his life, blessings that God would heal him, that God would forgive him, because he did not really understand the depth of what he had done. Because I feel like if he understood that, I think that he would have had a whole different perspective. Ignorance will kill a person.
Yeah.
So that is how I was able to forgive him and release him.
Now you have since publishing Breaking the Silence.
Mhm.
You um, have a conference um, called It's Your Time to Shine. And
Woo!
yes, which is coming up November 19th in
Yeah.
Tampa, Florida. So why don't you tell us about the conference? Why, what's the purpose of the conference? I mean, I get the gist by the title, but what exactly who's the targeted audience for in terms of attendees, and what will they gain from the conference?
Okay, so the conference is called It's Your Time to Shine. And I have a partner. Her name is Shalon Barnett, and we are we both do a lot of the same things. Like she helps women in recovery, and I like to work with the women with trauma.
Okay.
So we kind of pull together and say, hey, let's do this conference because it will help so many people. And it's not just for women; it's for men as well, because men need to heal as well.
Absolutely.
So we have two amazing men speakers.
Mhm.
Um, the theme of the conference is called "Release the Baggage," and so we find that going into relationships with other people, we are carrying all of this baggage that we need to release. This conference is targeted for people um, who do not understand why they are feeling stuck or stagnated, or they just existing and not knowing their purpose and living. And if you are in a place in your life where you feel stagnated, you feel like I'm just existing, I'm not living, I don't know what my purpose is, I don't understand what baggage is holding me back, then that conference is for you,
Mhm.
because we need to release the baggage of fear, the baggage of doubt, the baggage of shame and guilt that's been holding you back from living your full potential. And so I just feel like this is a season in our life for transformation. And this experience, I know, okay, people love to empower, but
Mm.
this conference is going to impact, because you are going to get tools. Bring an open heart to be able to receive. Bring your journal so that you can write down and take your notes and apply them to your life on a daily basis, because these things are going to be able to help you to get from that place of being stagnated and stuck and not being able to live your dreams. We allow fear to chokehold us,
Mm.
and we are not able to do those things that we've always wanted to do. If I allow fear to hold me back, I wouldn't have been able to open up two facilities, and I'm just in awe of just what God is doing, because I did not let fear hold me back. And
Mhm.
if I do feel afraid, I do it afraid. So
Mhm.
that's the key, just pushing yourself to your full potential. So I'm so excited because I just want to see people set free. I
Yes.
want to see people delivered from that baggage. And when you are, just playing a sport and you got baggage holding you down, you can't run
Mm.
and play your full potential in that game, because you're being held down in bondage. And it's time to be able to release that baggage so that you can be able to live your full potential life. And I'm so excited. I have some powerful speakers. We have Real Talk Kim from
Mhm.
out of Atlanta. She is a dynamic pastor,
Mhm.
speaker. We have Greg Davis is a relationship coach that is very well known, that goes around the world, just sharing and speaking. We have Derek Lott, which is an incredible speaker as well. He's an inspirational speaker. He is just, I mean, just hearing his stories, the way that he tells his story, he breaks it down like you will be in awe. I have Lisa Sunshine. She's a incredible speaker as well. She actually used to be my life coach. And then I have Kimberly Michelle, which is an incredible speaker. She's based here out of Tampa. We have Dr. Sanaa that's going to be there, giving some insight from a professional perspective. You know, what else do we have? I don't want to leave any of my speakers out. No
Right.
way.
Right.
I have myself and Shalon,
Mhm.
and it's just going to be incredible. It's going to be an incredible day. And we just had one more person, but I won't say that, but she is
Okay.
going to pump us up for this conference, and I can't wait for people to see. We're going to be advertising her today, and it's
Okay.
so exciting. And I'm looking so forward to this. It's going to be an incredible day. It's from 9 to 5. It's in Tampa, Florida, at the Embassy Suites at the USF. And when you walk away, it is going to be worth the travel. If you have to
Mhm.
travel here to Tampa, it's going to be phenomenal. And I'm just so excited. I'm so excited.
Now, how do folks register for the conference?
Okay, so I have Linktree in my bio on at Haughton's Love,
Mhm.
and they can also it's on Eventbrite. It's Your Time to Shine. It's in Tampa, Florida. We also have it on Facebook. We have a couple of different pages. It's Your Time to Shine on Facebook and Instagram. And if you go on my Facebook page, Latarsha Haughton, it's the first, it's pinned to the top of my page, and it's also in my bio as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Now, with the conference, will part conference attendees, will they be able to go to breakout sessions, or will they be able to hear all of the speakers? Because it sounds like you really got a dynamic lineup here.
So we are gonna for the VIPs, and we do still have VIP tickets available, but they will get a hour session with Real Talk Kim. They will get a whole hour session. The people who are not VIP, you're still special. We still love you, um,
Mhm.
and you will be able to meet with the panel,
Okay.
and you'll have Q&A. So you'll be able to ask the panel questions. We have Dr. Sanaa, Lisa Sunshine, we
Mhm.
have Derek Lott, and we also have Greg Davis, which is the relationship coach. And
Okay.
so he speaks a lot about relationships and about a lot about how you're bringing you bring baggage into these relationships, and you wonder why your relationships are failing miserably.
Right. And so
So
many of us can use uh
yeah,
I mean, because it's true. Your childhood, previous relationships, that all comes into play when you're trying to enter into new spaces with new people. And as much as you may try not to bring that baggage in, all of us have some form of baggage. It just depends on how much baggage we're carrying
yes.
and how we deal with it. But I think it's very important for us to, start to take a look at what ways we can focus on trying to heal, because our relationships in general, and it is not just you know those intimate relationships, but relationships with family, with friends, it all plays a part.
Yes.
So I'm so glad that you are doing this. Now, is this is the It's Your Time to Shine? This isn't your first conference, because when at the top of the show we talked about how you and your partner were working on a conference previously. Do you um facilitate conferences annually, or with different themes, or what do you do as far as that is concerned?
Yes. My nonprofit is called Breaking the Silence, Healing the Pain.
Mhm.
And Breaking the Silence, Healing the Pain is known for domestic violence, emotional abuse, and sexual abuse. We try to have our conference annually.
Okay.
However, when COVID hit, we were not able to move forward.
Mhm.
And so we did one in 2017, one in 2018.
Mhm.
In 2019, we went to Atlanta and we did interviews. We wanted to interview other people of what their story was like. And then we, edited and put it out there so that people can say, hey, this is what I went through, but this is where I am today. And
Mhm.
so you may have experienced this in your life, but does not define who you are as a person. And
Mhm.
then I was not able to have one in 2020,
Mhm.
and I was not able to have one in 2021. So
Mhm.
this is the first conference again since 2019.
Okay. Well, I am quite sure it is going to be an awesome event. And so glad that you're able to now, now as we are, as I say, we're back outside, able to interact with people in person and be able to participate in the conference. I think that's wonderful. With your nonprofit, Breaking the Silence, Healing the Pain, I know you mentioned that you focus on domestic violence, sexual abuse. What type of services do you provide in terms is that where you provide the life coaching? Do you help your clients gain access to various resources to help them break through um, the trauma that they've experienced? What how can someone get in contact with you if they wanted to obtain services from your nonprofit as well?
Okay, so I have a website. My website is www.latarshahaughton.com. I also have another website, www.btshtp.org. That is the nonprofit website. So when people want those type of services, I normally do like an assessment.
Mhm.
And for life coaching, it's basically like you're already been through therapy because I'm not a licensed therapist. So you need to go through therapy. And by the time you get to me, you're in a place where you are ready to put in the work. And I can guide you through my own personal experiences, making sure that you love yourself, making sure you understand who safe people are, that you understand how to set boundaries, that no is a complete sentence. And then we don't have to carry the load of guilt because you say no. We also, not needing people's approval, so I take people through a series of studies, and the workbook is phenomenal because we use biblical principle, and we also are teaching people of how to love yourself and to be assertive. You don't have to be passive aggressive and not understanding of why you don't have a voice. You have a voice, and you're going to use this voice because you are worthy. And
Mm,
so these are the things that are the steps that I take people through. But I always make sure that they're in a place where they'll be able to do that. Because if you're in a place where you need therapy, then you will go through therapy first. And I do have recommendations of different therapists that I can refer people to depending on where they are.
mhm,
Um, and I even do research. If I have to get on the phone and, call different therapists in different states, if people reaching out to me, I will help them to find a therapist. We'll read the reviews. We'll see, okay, this is what this therapist specialize in. So I will go to that extent of helping you because therapy is so important. It is. It's very important. And um, I I thank my therapist to this day, and when I see on social media, I say, hey, I love you, I miss you, because she was so incredible. She did not give up on me and she fought for me,
mm,
and so it's a good feeling to have somebody that really wants to pour into you the way that she did me. And she believed in me. And so I will always remember her. Yeah.
Well, I am so glad that you were willing to share your story with me here on Light It Up, and also that you got the courage to release and to be able to share your story and be transparent, which I know has already helped people and will continue to help others. Um, Before we wrap up, just remind everyone again, the conference, It's Your Time to Shine. That's Saturday, November 19th, right?
Yes,
Tampa,
from 9 to
Florida,
5.
9 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And folks who are interested in attending can register or for the conference on Eventbrite.
Yes.
So if you just do a search for It's Your Time to Shine, you can also find it on Facebook and Instagram. Is there, and you said you have a few VIP tickets left, so I'm
Yes.
going to encourage folks to get those VIP tickets so you can get that
And I
time with
tell you
Will.
what,
Yeah.
if somebody purchase a ticket from listening to your podcast, Light It Up, they will receive a 25% off
Wow.
coupon discount. And
Okay.
so a 25% discount on your ticket, but they would need to um, they would need to email me saying I was on Light It Up podcast.
Okay.
And I listened to this podcast, and this is how, and I can send them a 25%. Our team can send them a 25% discount.
Well, look at that. So you guys want to attend the conference, especially if you're in the Tampa area, but even if you're not in the Tampa area,
It is worth the travel.
I was going to say it is worth the travel. Make sure that you reach out to Latarsha and let her know that you saw her here on Light It Up podcast. So do you want to give folks your email address so that they can reach out?
Yes, the email would be info@btshtp.org.
All right, awesome. Well, I am so very excited for you and for all of the great work that you are doing and will continue to do. I want to thank you so much for being my guest today. And you have an open invitation. So, should you ever want to come back on Light It Up, would love to have you back. Just so you can give us some updates on what other incredible things you are doing to help those who need to work on transforming their lives.
Yes.
So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate you for having me on. And I'm just in awe of the work that you are doing. And it's, and I just see the glow on your face, and just the excitement. So I just thank you for what you're doing, because you're definitely making a difference.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Welcome.
So thank you everyone for tuning in to this week's episode of Light It Up. Make sure you share this episode with a friend and have them to reach out, or you reach out as well to Mrs. Haughton to get those services, especially if that's what I meant to ask you. You're based in the Tampa area. And so for individuals who are looking for services, from your nonprofit, is that also based
It's
in
global.
global? Perfect.
Yes, because we do Zoom group meetings. We do one-on-one group meet sessions. We can prepare to connect
Mhm.
in person as well. So they just need to just click that button.
All right. Awesome.
Register.
Perfect. Well, you'll also be able to obtain the contact information within the show notes. So make sure you take a look at that and visit the website. But I want to thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Light It Up. Hope to see you back here next week, and you'll find out who my next guest will be for the upcoming episode. And as I leave you, always remember to continue to light it up and shine bright like a diamond.
Oh, wow. Love it.
Thanks for joining me this week on Light It Up. Make sure you visit my website at www.lightituppodcast.com or www.aginahmuhammad.com. You can also find me on social media using the handle @LightItUpPodcast. If you like what you've heard, please be sure to hit the subscribe button so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, I'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or you can simply tell a friend about the show. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday for a new episode. Until next time, light it up and shine bright like a diamond.